Hey, what's up, everybody? What's up, friends? Thanks for hanging out here on this Friday. We talk about topical stuff, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it because ultimately, what did it matter? We're back at what it is. There's rumors that Trump and Elon are going to make up, but it created a lot of volatility yesterday, which is very interesting. And it's started to make what I talked about last week play out. And that would be, of course, Ethereum kind of hung out at another resistance last week. It hit another one today. It's basically hitting 50%, 50%, 50%. And yeah, I mean, who knows? Nobody knows the future, but I made my case last week about that. But it's just a trade, and we'll see how that goes. I do want to talk a lot about Monero privacy because some friends of ours got into a discussion about it. Very interesting because one of my theses about crypto right now, the only crypto I really care about is Bitcoin, Monero, Ethereum, and Solana. There's only four I really care about, kind of like your blue chips, as it were. Maybe I'm just becoming a boomer about things, but Monero still remains pretty strong. It's doing pullback. I want 292, but it's got a lot got some haters. It's got some haters in the Bitcoin space because they don't want people challenging their one true coin because every dollar that goes towards any other cryptocurrency doesn't pump their bags. I'm being mean, but it's not untrue. But there was a challenge to Monero's privacy, and we're going to talk about that. I used a little bit of I use a smart person to help me out, i.e., AI, smarter than me. But we're going to talk about that. So I will let people filter in, and we'll talk about that, and have your symbols to look at because we're getting close to the all-time high on all the things, and that might be some opportunity. So hang out for just a second. I'll be right back. All right. Thanks for hanging out with me this Friday. Hey, what's up, Stone Pilot? Good to see you. Good to see you. All right. Well, little plug. I try to do this every Friday. I'm going to try to do it even if I don't feel like it because it's good to be consistent. Market has been very interesting this week. Interesting for me as a trader because we're getting into the summer months, and I've been doing this for many, many years. And usually by this time, the market has pretty much dried up, and you can chart that with the VIX. We're talking about stock market, by the way. We'll talk about crypto here in just a second, but it's all kind of related, honestly, because man, did you guys see yesterday, Thursday? By the way, that's June 5th. I mean, in case you've been under a rock and you weren't looking at charts, there was a big Twitter spat, literally a boy that escalated quickly between the world's richest man and the world's most powerful man. I'm sure you guys know about it. I don't focus on topical stuff too much, but it definitely moved the market, and it moved the crypto market a lot. But we're kind of back at where we were somewhat. But it did help the Ethereum trade that I talked about last week move in the correct direction, correct for me, at least, being short. But we're getting into the summer months and things are usually starting to dry up. But I think that with the Trump presidency, I don't think we're going to get a boring season. Usually I think, okay, now's the time that we kind of settle back and, go sell in May and go away. But no, that does not seem to be the way. Is it safe to buy a Tesla now? I think you missed it, buddy. And I'll show you. There was a very interesting thing that happened on Tesla. I didn't buy shares because I already own shares, but I did sell puts. That's because I have I have a share position, pretty nice one. When I bought my Tesla, I saw what a good product it was, so I decided I'm going to put as much money as I bought into the car into the stock, and that was in early 2023. So I got a buying price of about 160. So we hope that it doesn't ever come back to that. But I feel really good. But it's really hard stock to own with all the volatility. But not really. But I sell calls against it, and that becomes really annoying. I'm going to stop doing that. I keep saying that, but short answer to Tesla, because you brought it up. You know, you watched me somehow. You know that I love volume profile levels, and one of the reasons I love them is because they're not past looking indicators. It's like I call it a cheat code for finding support and resistance levels, because you can draw them before the moves actually happen. And just kind of rehash, because it's very important to teach this. No matter what indicators that you look at on a chart, you really need to use volume profile. Actually, should I give that secret away? Yes, go ahead. Doesn't matter. Because not everyone's going to watch this. Only the people that are watching this know. People know about volume profile, but just look at this. So in this past little gobbledygook that you had right here, well, first let's say why did this stop here around 218? And if we do a volume profile of the whole range leading up to that point, we have like several nodes. I like to look for nodes of volume profile. Basically, a volume profile is a histogram like this. And so the big one is the red line. We call that the point of control. And so like the final level was going to be 183. But you also have these intermittent levels. And the last level it held was at 218. And I almost tagged it 3 times. We'll move up to the weekly so that you can see that a little bit easier. So yeah, twice it hit the 218. That was the point to buy it. But then on this recent down move, which by the way was the two things I use are volume profile and 50% retracements. And that weekly bar, basically you had 1, 2, 3 weeks leading up to this where you could not break 351. That was a big resistance. You had a little spike above it, closed down below it. That was your first bearish sign. But yesterday, when everything was going on, and I'm looking at my ticker and I'm seeing, my watch list right here, seeing Tesla down 16, 17%, drew a level with some buddies of mine trading in chat. And how we're going to do that is we're just going to look at, okay, where is the recent price action? I'm going to look at this last little consolidation period. We don't want to see where's the level where it was mostly traded. If people went long from March until May, what level are they going to defend? That's the narrative around it, right? And if we do a volume profile of that area, what does it come up with? It's about 173.64. Let's say 174. And let's go down just to the 1 minute. and boom, sold some puts because volatility really knocked up. Now it's a little scary to do that at the time because goodness knows, like Elon could be, he could be in one of his ketamine trips and wake up on a plane to El Salvador, and that would definitely hurt the company. But I don't think that's going to happen. There's rumors they're going to make up. I love the conspiracy theories that say that this is all just like not just 4D chess, but 5D chess. But we're not going to get into that. Just going to talk about price action, but that was a great example of volume profile, something you can draw before the move happens, giving you like a next to exact level for where this thing goes and hits. And that kind of stuff excites me. I mean, because man, I've been trading for years and looking for something that's that consistent. Oof, man. So yeah. Um, but that's of course that. What's up, Akatrina and Jeremiah? Hey, how's it doing? So, by the way, make sure you guys, if you like me, talking about this kind of stuff, if you feel like you learned something, make sure you do a like. Um, and if you got symbols to look at, I like to use this live stream for idea generation. We've gotten a lot of good ideas from this. I mean, even the idea from 2 or 3 years ago in Whirlpool this year. I know Whirlpool. Who the hell cares about Whirlpool stock? And so, yeah. Who cares about Whirlpool stock? Again, volume profile from the 2008 to 2013. This is one that we picked up a few weeks ago. It's off of it by about how much? 10%. So this came from a live stream, actually. I know what the reason I like Whirlpool is because a live stream person talked about it, and it was almost, I set an alert for it, and then it pinged earlier this year. And this was around the tariff debate. And so I did a little bit of research on what American company would be least affected, manufacturer would be least affected by tariffs. And it hit that volume profile, and that's good. So we'll see how that goes. That's more recent trade in here. We need to talk about, what do you guys want to talk about first? Crypto or stocks? Intel? Okay, we'll talk about Intel for sure. Intel is, I mean, there's not much to say. I'm still long Intel from last fall, around 1950, I think, about 1950. So we're back at we're hanging out here at my break even. It's a position. It's some stocks. It's not options. This will be you'd be getting killed with options. We're just gonna see what they do. Chip manufacturers have a 5-year R&D to market. We'll see. We'll see. I'm still hodling. If it gets any lower than it did last earnings, we're going to probably cut that. And so that's Intel right now. Yeah. Yeah. GD, is that General Dynamics? We're not having enough war. Oh, is it DG or GD? Is it my Dolce and Gabbana stock, or is it General Dynamics? We'll talk about Dolce and Gabbana here in just a second. So immediately, without anything's on the chart here, what I'm going to see with my eyes is that it's coming up, and you're kind of hanging out at this resistance right here. It's pushing up to it. If you can get a break above this range that's setting up right here, because normally what you'd see is it come up and it hit the resistance or run away. It did, but it came back. Yeah, this thing is, I mean, you can kind of see it's trying to push up against that resistance. If you're long, you can tighten up your stock and you can hope for a breakout. But breakout would actually be pretty good. That's a weekly. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I think it probably is probably a little messy. Let me bring back my retracement levels, but I bet that was kind of close to a 50% down there. Yeah. It's very clearly, no, actually it broke below it a little bit. It's very clearly trying to poke up against it. Try to get it up, basically break that high from a couple of weeks ago, and you're going to be good to go bullish. You've been in since 268. You're good. You're good. You could probably maybe set a break even stop on that because it really needs to push up. If it comes back down, it might retest the bottom of the range again, and then you're going to be stuck holding it down around 240, and then you got to make a hard decision. So hashtag not financial advice, but I like it to go up. I do. Since you maybe do a Freudian slip, I'm going to talk about Dolce and Gabbana, and I'm making a total joke here because it's not actually the luxury brand. This is something even more boring, which is Dollar General. My best trade of this year, which is really when I say trade, I own shares. I'm not doing options. One could, but I'm trying to Warren Buffett this thing to just hold it. However, as a trader, um, trader, not traitor, we need to acknowledge gaps. So let me refresh the chart entirely here. We're going to talk about crypto here in just a second, but I'm going to kind of roll through this because this is a chart pattern that is going to be useful. You got to respect gap levels if you're trading futures, if you're trading stocks. It's not really there's not any gaps in crypto typically, but just pay attention, pay attention. So let's start over. This trade began again based on a long-term volume profile level from way back in the mid-teens. Okay. Seriously, seriously. Volume profile from way back then. Long-term holders, that's where they bought it. That's where they decided to add. And if you look at it, this thing went crazy. Dollar General fundamentally, they overexpanded. They expanded, which made people think it was bullish, got all the way up into the 260s, and then it comes all the way back down to 71 and hangs out here. This actually was a spike one day back in, I think March. Was it March? Seems like it was earlier, but March, it definitely was a volatility spike on the open that started this trade off. But what's been very interesting to see from a learning about price action perspective is the gap level from earnings back in August of last year, right around here. Okay, and so what's been really cool and interesting for me as somebody that studies charts and looks for, you know, setups and levels, specific horizontal levels, is the clear gap that it's set up. And I'm going to use the low before the gap and then the high of the gap there. We're going to use that. Some people might use it from the close of the previous day. This is a daily chart, by the way. But you're going to see how it's respecting that low more. And that's really the big open area right here. There's your gap. Okay. And so just look at how price has and is respecting it. So you had the trade that started back down here at the low back in March, and then it came up and it held the top end side of the gap 1, 2 times, breaks it. This is a really, really good setup right here where you break a level and then come back to retest to support. This is right before earnings. I already have a position, so I'm not really going to add to it. I need to bring myself up to really hit stuff like this because, adding to winners, that's what you're supposed to do, right? You're not supposed to add to losers, but I tend to just let things sit because the worst thing I think for me, deals wise, is to have a good position and then, double down and then it come to break even. But anyway, that's one can do that, but I just kind of hold on to what I have. And so, but the key thing is it came on earnings the day before this last earnings, which was this week. Yeah, it was Tuesday. That was going to be a big test for it and held it from the underside right there at that gap level. Remember, it's the high of there. You can see it ahead of time. It comes out, it's fine. And then, as I said to a friend this week, if I was being a disciplined trader and not trying to be Warren Buffett and just hold this, and that's what I'm going to try to do. My plan on this is to hold this. What's my price target over the years? Let's see if we can't get back up here. Even if it's slow, even if it takes some time, it's giving you a little bit of a dividend to, kind of tease you to hold it a little bit. But this thing, at the beginning of the year, people were trying to get into NVIDIA, trying to get into AI. And let's just compare the two of them. But first, look at what it's at right now. If you're in this with me and you're looking for a take profit, though, now is a really good level because you see how it's come up to that gap level, went from one gap level to the other one. Price loves to traverse that kind of stuff. And 114, it's banging up against it. So honestly, I'm articulating this to you right now. That is a really nice, juicy trend. You don't want to get too greedy on it. So, I might sell some covered calls on it just to earn a little bit off of this resistance. Really, not going to get very much because it's a Dollar General. It's not going to have much IV, but need to do something. So Monday, I think I will abide by some rules of respecting levels and do something in this. But gap levels, gap levels, gap levels. So um, let's see here. What else? All right. Well, let's talk about Ethereum. And so Ethereum is the topic of last week's live stream. And let me clean up some of the unnecessary levels and understand. So the resistance that I'm playing, the longer term resistance I'm playing on Ethereum is the 2750 level, 2750 Ethereum. And I feel bad because members on my Discord, by the way, join in the link. I like to talk. I like to source ideas. I like to talk to people about ideas on there whenever people chime in. And I post my trades live on Discord just for my own accountability. Don't take them if you don't like them. But this is one of my primary theses, coming into this second half of the year. First half of the year, I was looking at buying stuff that wasn't tech. Everyone wanted to buy tech. It's hard for me to buy things that aren't things that everyone else is buying. So actually, real quick, wow, I'm looking at this. Compare the year-to-date performance of Dollar General stock and Nvidia. So remember how everyone wanted to buy AI coming in. That was the hot thing. I can't do the hot stuff. I have to do the stuff that no one's looking at. So Nvidia's up 5%, and Dollar General, little dollar store, is up over half. And so you're doing okay. You had to wait, and you had some pain throughout 6 months with Nvidia. You're winning if you bought it at the beginning of the year, but man, I mean, when people ask me to look at stuff, I'm patient. I'm patient with people, but it tends to be when people want me to look at something, it looks like this. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think? Is it a buy? I don't want to tell you, dude. Like, no, not for me. Not for me. You can do that. I mean, it's basically giving into human nature to chase returns, do what everyone else is doing. Like someone comes to the village and say, "Hey, everybody, I found this bush of berries out in the woods." I'm talking about evolutionary psychology here. It's got a lot of sweet berries, and everyone from the village goes and gets it. But then eventually, what happens? Well, they pick all the berries off, and now there's no more berries. And the last person that gets there, well, they just wasted their time. And for some reason, we didn't work that out in our evolutionary history, and people do this a lot. So no, I don't buy things like this. I like stuff that's dead. I like stuff that's dead. Like, you remember when Monero was delisted from Binance back here in February of 2024? I woke up and Monero, the thing I've been talking about, the thing I've been believing, which I'm going to talk about here in just a little bit, the privacy debate that I kind of got involved in on X and then on Telegram later. Monero was dead, hit 100, and I woke up and I thought that they had broken the privacy of this cryptocurrency, and turns out it was delisted for working as intended, which was having too much privacy. In other words, Europe's making. I have a lot of Euros that are on my Discord and talk to me about it, and they kind of express concern that, oh man, like I can't trade it. What am I gonna do? Like, do I sell my Monero? And I was like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. I mean, frankly though, like not being able to trade it, not being listed on Coinbase ever, being delisted from major exchanges, not having a bunch of corporate Ponzi's like MicroStrategy buying it, has been awfully good for it. That's opportunity when people say something is dead and are questioning if they should buy it or not. It really is kind of that simple. When people have like doubts, when people have questions about if they should buy something or not, maybe it's worth it. But when everyone is all in, I can't. I can't. And it's saved me from a lot of pain. And so, the stocks go into like Nvidia coming. I mean, Nvidia is a great company. There's a lot of bullish reasons to buy it. But if something is great, like think about it this way: if a company is great, if it can only get better if everyone thinks it's the greatest thing ever, it's the safest thing ever, it's going to go up, then I mean, that's what people expect. People expect it to go up. So like what can happen that's good? Well, I mean, it can't go up. This has always been kind of the thing that happened with Apples, and nobody really talks about Apple that much, but it was sort of the tech darling of many years ago. People have kind of short memories about this kind of stuff. But Apple, this is a weekly chart. It's not doing the same kind of yeet that it did back in 2020 all the way up to 2021. I mean, it's gone up. It's gone up. Let's say from 2021 high to here is about 11%. I mean, it's kind of bad for the tech stock, but everyone just piled in Apple. But what ends up happening when something is at its best, there's only one way for it to go, and that's down. You got to get into stuff when people think that it's dead. I mean, the Tesla thing. Tesla, Elon, they're burning his cars. I mean, that was Tesla 218. Now, despite everything going on, Tesla's at 300. Monero hit 100 when it got delisted. So yeah. All right. And Ethereum, as I was talking about that. So the volatility from yesterday gave Ethereum about an 8% decline. Bitcoin was down about 4%. At the time, just to kind of note things, there's been a lot of volatility in it, but just for posterity's sake, this is what happens a lot. This is the crypto market. When you have big events like this, for some reason, Monero holds its ground. Just saying. Just saying. I'm not saying you're going to get rich off Monero because people use it. I hope they stop pumping it, honestly, because its use gives it value. But it just, in times of uncertainty in the crypto market, for some reason, Monero becomes the safe haven asset. This happens every big down day that you can look at, except when the Monero is moving independently in its volatility state. But I'm really hoping that Monero returns to a nice range like it was in, and I can start buying the bottom of that range again, hopefully. And 292, that's the 50% retracement of the yeet, as it were. And it's not too far away. From the bottom, from this little low right here in April, that spike down all the way up to the high of 420. LOL. 292. Held a resistance today and yesterday, so we might get that pretty soon. So we'll see. We'll see. Volume profile is also in there. Oh, down there a little bit lower, 275. So 292 to 275. That's what we look at. But Ethereum, bouncing back to that, I'm still targeting about at least 1,800. That's basically the bottom down here. It hung out. Essentially, remember, I'll just clear this up. So 50%, big deal. And of the big move down, that's your 2,750, 50%. Dig down to a lower time frame. And from that little spike high down to here, again, 50%. And then from this spike high to here, perfect, almost 50% mechanical. Now, of course, that can break, but it's just kind of cool to kind of note the 50%, 50%, 50%. Lower lows, lower highs from that spike high, that fake out. And the diminished network effect. I feel bad. I always feel bad talking about it this way because I know a lot of people have a lot of their financial futures staked on this and other things. But again, this is like my favorite quote from the last week when I heard it. It's not new. It's old. I think a lot of people wish that their favorite cryptocurrency will be a price that will make them as rich as they want to be. But you gotta get it there. And the question I always ask when people were like, "Oh, it's going to go to 20K," it's like, "Are you buying more?" Yeah, sure. Yeah, but are you like taking out a mortgage to buy more right now? We that kind of goes back to Bitcoin. I mean, again, short Bitcoin failed. Well, 2 weeks in a row, it failed the all-time high break. I mean, it could be doing it. We're always looking back in the history. We're always looking back in the past to like try to find, okay, what could happen, but everything's going to be different. This time it's different. It's one of those dangerous rules of finance. But that's what makes trading and investing and charts interesting is because it is different. But there is a possibility that this was the double top like we saw in 2021, where you had a slightly marginally higher high. Sound familiar? And then it went down. But you can see that it had like a little double top, a double top, and just couldn't push higher. I mean, what happens here, if you go back, is again, it comes down to psychology. Like you need just YOLO, reckless abandon. You need people mortgaging their houses. You need 0% interest rates. Or in the case of this, where yeah, it was still very, very low interest rates here. A little bit of market history for you. Going back to this time period, you still had like next to zero interest rates until this day right here, which was back in December. It was basically that Friday you had a U.S. jobs report come out, and people in the market knew that the Fed was looking at the jobs report to figure out what they were going to do about interest rates. And if the jobs report was good, they were going to start raising interest rates. And that big bar right there on Bitcoin was really kind of like the knife that they stuck into the jugular, and it started to kill it. It had already happened on the chart with the false breakouts up here, but that was when they didn't start raising rates on that day. It's just smart people in the market knew rates were going to go up, and the tailwind that was pushing liquidity was going to kick in. And that also happened to be the moment where Bitcoin got out of the Ichimoku cloud, which fits my criteria for it going officially bearish, price and momentum getting out at the same time. So that being said, Bitcoin is still bullish until it crosses over, gets down into the low 90s. So still bullish. Didn't break 100. Has some volatility, almost recovered it, but it didn't do what it needed to do to really rip. Now did it? So I would be nervous if I had everything staked on Bitcoin right now. But as a trader, I got to short that false breakout. And so I think the asymmetric reward, everyone says, oh, the asymmetric reward is on the upside, bro. Bitcoin to 1 million. Okay. Like where are you going to find that $8 trillion? Governments, bro. They're going to like abandon fiat and put all this stuff on Bitcoin. Why? Because it's better. It's fixed supply. They can't control the money. Why would governments give up their control of money? The problem with Bitcoin is it doesn't have an army. That's really the big problem for that. But we'll see. We'll see. So yeah, we're kind of getting, if you guys symbols, put them in the chat to talk about. Want to do a circle back on Monero, because there was a Twitter war about it. By the way, a little update on this. Let me tell you why I have such a bullish stance on Monero. Okay. So, well, that comes later. The alleged reason that Monero pumped so hard, there is an alleged reason. Yeah, I mean, it's been kind of seen through, chain analysis and that sort of thing. This is what happened. Essentially, about $330 million worth of Bitcoin was stolen in a social engineering hack. It was an old wallet, like back to 2013 or something. I don't know. I had to pull up the old data. But the hacker got control of a lot of Bitcoin, $330 million worth. And they knew it was worthless to them. The reason they knew that goes back to the reason I've been talking about Monero for 2 years now, because you had two major hacks that happened. You had the Bitfinex hack, happened a decade ago, almost a decade ago. And then you had the Silk Road hack, which happened even further, like 12 years ago. And both involved billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, if you study Bitcoin, you know that the blockchain is semi-anonymous. That's what we used to call it. But basically, you can see where all the Bitcoin goes. And it just takes one mistake in OPSEC, operational security, and you're caught. And yeah, they can't force you to surrender your Bitcoin. But when you're sitting in a jail cell and they say, you can be in here for the rest of your life, or you can surrender your Bitcoin and maybe only be here for a few decades. Most people are going to choose the decades. And so they lost all the billions of Bitcoin and yeah, they spent some time in jail, or maybe they didn't. I haven't kept up with the cases, but either way, those two major events happened, and I realized, wow, Bitcoin is only as valuable as government lets it be to you personally. It's only as valuable as governments allow, because otherwise it's worthless. They'll take it from you, or they'll put you in jail, deprive you for you, and take it. And that, I'm not going to go into the political legal debate about that, but logically, that's the case. As long as you're not breaking any laws, you're fine. You get to keep it. But what about people that do break laws? You know, like this person that stole all of the Bitcoin. Well, they wanted to privatize it. And so what did they do? They went out to about a dozen distributed exchanges and converted it into Monero, which will then make it private and no one can trace it. Created a massive liquidity shock. There were several small exchanges that literally ran out of Monero. And what do you have? You had the supply shock, God candles that everyone thought the Bitcoin was going to get because of Saylor buying all the Bitcoin. Well, Monero got it because it has far, far less market cap, meaning it can move much, much quicker. And so the question I invariably get, which I don't like the question, is, well, how much higher can it go? I don't like that question. I like for Monero to be used. I like it to be a tool for freedom like Bitcoin is supposed to be. I really believe that is that Monero is what people think Bitcoin is. It is actually private eCash, something Milton Friedman talked about in 1999. But if you are going to trade, if you are going to try to accumulate it, like I said, we'll try to trade it, but it's been notoriously hard to trade because it just trades in a range. Before this happened, it basically traded inside of ranges. And the best you could do is try to accumulate it when it got to the bottom of those ranges. But is this going to happen again? Likely, very likely. And that's one of the reasons I've been following this distributed exchange project called Saridex. They're kind of slow. They got a kind of little joke about, it's coming soon, TM, as it were. But the reason I focus on this, and I'm going to evaluate, I'm not going to recommend it unless it meets my criteria, is it has Monero native integration. In other words, you're not doing wrapped Monero. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that you're having to create a smart contract with Monero in a complicated way. You're going to be able to create liquidity pools between Monero, Ethereum, Bitcoin, the major stuff, and all the privacy of Monero should be entailed. That's at least the goal of it. And the reason I want that is because I want to be sitting in the market with a liquidity pool when this happens, because this hacker, when they did this transfer, they gave up something like tens of millions of dollars in fees just to make it happen, because it's not their money. Who do they care? But that's what you have. And is that going to happen again? Yes, because people are not going to stop wanting to take Bitcoin, and people are not going to stop wanting to not get caught. And if you have ethical problems with that, that's fine. That's fine. But just remember that everything they said about Monero is exactly what they said about Bitcoin over a decade ago in terms of who uses it. Privacy should be a right, but we're not going to go into the politics of it. That is the thesis, and it will continue. When it will happen, you don't know. So you're just going to have to be ready and be in the market. Can Monero go back down? Absolutely. I hope it does. But yeah, that's the rehash of the thesis on it. And like I said, if we do get into a bear market of crypto led by Bitcoin, and by the way, this doesn't negate Bitcoin. This actually requires Bitcoin. It requires I fundamentally reject the Bitcoin maxi thesis that there can only be one coin. We're going to talk about that discussion about Lightning Network and its privacy benefits, because with Monero's resurgence, there's been a lot of social media buzz and a lot of hate. A lot of haters are coming out because, every dollar that goes into a cryptocurrency that isn't Bitcoin is money that could be pumping Bitcoin. And that makes people mad if they've invested all of their personality into Bitcoin. But I don't think it necessarily takes away from Bitcoin. But they want to use this layer 2 solution, Lightning Network, to give people everything they want. They want to put, smart contracts with ordinals on Bitcoin. They want to do NFTs on Bitcoin. They want to do all this stuff. But, I was listening to Ross Ulbricht's speech at the Bitcoin conference, and, I think he's right. I think that we need to respect the children of Bitcoin as well. And technology, I'm sure, there's probably a large Venn diagram of people that are watching right now that work in tech. And so you've worked with lots of different software before. And one piece of software can't do everything, nor should it. You can try, but there's always trade-offs. And there's a big trade-off with Bitcoin going private because people value its transparency for both making sure that there's no double spend and there's a fixed amount, 21 million Bitcoin, which I don't think is a great idea, but again, political debate. And uh, so yeah, Monero lets people have privacy by default. But with Lightning Network, that can give privacy. But again, it's a hack. It's a layer on top of the chain itself. And you're not going to have much change in Bitcoin because the miners are so locked in. So, but let's go to that debate really quick. So this was the original post by this person called Super Test. It came very highly spoken about. Maybe some people of my local friends group made them at a Bitcoin conference in Vegas. But what this person is doing, to kind of summarize, is trying to make the argument that Lightning Network offers more privacy to receivers than Monero, because you're able to see the stealth key. Let me kind of put this into words to kind of explain it in layman's terms. I could use AI to explain it in layman's terms, but let's see. So when you send Monero to someone, you're going to go to their stealth key, but that stealth key can, sit out there, and if you don't use it again, his argument is, if you don't use it again, then someone could go in court and say like, well, I sent you this Monero, and someone in court could say, oh, well, you never moved it because you never see that stealth key again. You don't know who it is. You don't know how much money's in the address. And you can't know for sure if they spent it or not because of ring signatures, where there's a probability that that stealth key is one of 16 that's used again in a transaction. If you never see that in the years after the transaction, you could argue that, you never spent it. You still own that Monero. And so that was kind of like the gist of his argument, is that you can use that sort of, heuristic to determine in court if it had been transferred or not. Whereas you can't in a Lightning network, and this is very important, in a Lightning network node that is specifically configured for privacy and where at least privacy benefits. So you have the two debates between, you have Monero and its privacy by default on its layer 1 chain, and then you have Bitcoin Lightning Network layer 2 with specific configurations for privacy. So you got to go a couple of extra steps to get this privacy, that you can get with Monero. And it's a little bit better because you don't know the receiver, basically. And the argument was, well, this is better than Monero for all the reasons people love Monero. And it's kind of a little bit of a pissing match because, again, everyone in Bitcoin wants to do everything on Bitcoin so that only Bitcoin is pumped and the bags that they bought not long ago go up. And what ends up happening, though, when I really dug into this, and I used some smart people I know to try to interpret this for me, because I consider myself to be about like 100, maybe a little bit less IQ. So it's really hard when people start talking about like bips and cryptocurrency. I'm not that smart. I look at lines on a chart. Okay. But I try to make educated decisions. And from that, I dug into it enough and found out that while you could use that argument in court, there still is the reasonable doubt that you could not prove you did not move that before, because you could do you could move your wallet around, you could internally shift around your coins. There's no way to prove what he's saying as if he's saying. It's not a cut and dry, you're going to get caught kind of way. And so I was satisfied that there are at least two ways that you can obfuscate the movements of Monero, so that would defeat this argument that you could prove it later down the line. And also, it all depends on someone having a KYC, know your customer link, to that particular transaction happening at that time. The time metadata, in other words, when the transaction occurred, is really the only thing that you can see actually improved that actually happened. But you don't know the address, you don't know how much is in it, you don't know who it belongs to. All that privacy is pretty secure. But I'm content that my thesis is still intact. And I haven't even mentioned the major thing, which is, if you remember from a few minutes ago, why do I think there's going to be big rips in Monero? They're going to be sporadic and spontaneous. It's because there's going to be huge volumes of Bitcoin going to be moved into Monero at unknown times. And Lightning nodes, they're going to have a set amount of liquidity. In other words, they're going to have a set amount that can be moved. And you're going to need to trust your counterparty and have everything set up for privacy. They're not going to use it for these purposes. So it's going to be Monero that people choose to transfer for. Not to mention the fact that I have done a little bit digging on the dark web and markets. I don't see any Lightning. Lightning's being used in, circles. It's being used, maybe to buy some food at Steak and Shake, and, among people that are like enjoy playing with it. But where people are actually buying and selling goods, and want privacy and want a currency, a medium of exchange. I mean, it's interesting because you have also the Monero versus Zcash debate, where people say, "Oh, Zcash has got this, extra fun privacy features, it's better technology," but the market's already chosen to use Monero. And I think what might end up happening is that you have these people that create like a privacy, like a private version or private implementation, a private node in Lightning Network. But this can have really great technology. Like Zcash can arguably have, I don't know if it's better, but you can have different ways of, but people are already using Monero and they're satisfied with the privacy. And so I think you have to really go above and beyond to supplant it. But of course, people are going to be pretty resilient and sticking with the coin that they choose, which has been Bitcoin. So I don't think people are going to move. I think if they want private Bitcoin, they're going to move that way. But big transactions, I think, are still going to be moved through Monero, because while it has low liquidity, it still has the liquidity to handle tens, hundreds of millions of dollars. It just happens to be that the price of Monero is going to go up a lot. So I remain convicted in my long-term thesis on it. So, all right, we're going to get into the end right here. Anybody got some symbols to look at? Symbols to look at. If not, we shall call it a live stream. So let me check. All right. Well, folks, speak now, forever hold your peace. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us Friday. I will be back again next Friday, and we'll see if the war has abated between Elon and Trump. Just think, we get 3.5 more years of this fun. That's the good part about it. So, all right. Have a good weekend, everybody. We'll see you later.